Україно, рідна земля мати, Господь, Отець наш Небесний, благословіть.
Once during our mission, 3 enemy tanks tried to intercept us, but when Russians heard that Leopard 2 was in action, they turned around and fled.
Zahar. Age 35 years old. Profession Leopard 2A6 tank commander. He used to have a completely different job.
I used to enrich valuable minerals. I made dust out of a 2-centimeter stone, and then it was turned into steel.
Now he turns enemies into dust.
Once we assaulted enemy positions and worked with Bradleys. One of them was blown up, blocking our path through a minefield. Infantry were already on the enemy positions, engaging in combat. Then from our position, we started blasting at Russians for 2 to 3 hours, using up all the ammunition. The supplies were delivered to the infantry, allowing them to clear the rest. Later, we met these guys. They only had 2 men injured. They said, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here.
Zahar is the commander of the Leopard 2A6 tank, one of the most modern in Ukraine. He had something to compare it with. He worked with the Soviet T-64 and T-72 before Leopard 2.
Leopard is spacious and everything is very convenient. Screens, joysticks, everything is so simple, everything is made for humans. In the T-72, everything is uncomfortable, with minimal space. And there are all these transistors, automatics, damn, it all falls out, rattles, everything is unreliable. Leopard, everything is smooth. The optics allow seeing far. We work at the maximum distance, sometimes up to 3,600 meters. For Soviet technology, a kilometer was already a good score. But here I see everything perfectly. It has maneuverability, it's fast, it has reverse gear. Great!
However, there is another important difference between Soviet and Western armored vehicles. In the war in Ukraine, Russian tank crews compete in a very odd discipline, whose turret will fly higher when the ammunition explodes. Here are a few nominees. 1, 2, 3. In many Soviet tanks, the projectiles are arranged in a circle, and once they're hit, the entire storage explodes, leaving no chance of survival. For Russia, preserving the lives of its soldiers is a secondary task. For NATO technologies, it's a priority.
Leopard added 3 birthdays to my life. Tanks I worked on have been hit 3 times, but the entire crew remained undamaged. For the first time during combat, the power cable was severed, and the tank just died out. There was no light, no communication. Fortunately, the electronics didn't affect the engine. I climbed out of the tank and shouted to the driver in the flashes or the light from the rockets where to go through that minefield, and we managed to get out backwards. The second time, a Bradley in front of us exploded. It was on fire, and shells were exploding. We started moving away, and at that moment, a Landsat drone hit us. For the third time, we drove over a mine. A 60-ton tank just bounced. The track broke, but everyone was intact. While the fourth time, they just made a hole with an anti-tank guided missile, but everything still worked. And because of this, among other things, I'm very confident in my crew. Despite everything, we all get into the tank together and go to perform combat tasks.
The Leopard 2 crew consists of 4 people: tank commander, loader, gunner, and driver-mechanic.
My driver doesn't even have a regular driver's license, can't drive a car. But here, he's a tank driver, and during training in Germany, they even nicknamed him Kamikaze. We went to places even the Germans were afraid to go.
Alexei, specialization, Leopard tank driver.
The manual says its maximum speed is 72 kilometers per hour, but for some reason our speedometer once showed 80.
Leopard 2 hits really accurately. The declared shooting range is 4 kilometers, and it is true in practice. At 3 kilometers, its hit rate is almost 100%.
And the loader, most importantly, must be strong. The physical load on him is substantial. After all, he has to work with these 30-kilogram shells.
The Leopard doesn't have an automatic loading system, so a person has to load the projectiles.
The breech opens manually. We open the so-called refrigerator, take out a shell, and that's it, the gun is loaded. During work, we make sure these doors are closed. Then, once the turret is hit, a special system directs all the flame upwards, and it doesn't get into the turret. We have two main types of shells, armor-piercing and high-explosive. The first is used against heavy equipment, the second against lightly armored targets and infantry. In training we loaded a shell in 5 seconds, in battle no one counts time, but I think it's even faster. There is also a 7.62mm machine gun, with an effective range of 1.5 kilometers, which also works well. It's a good machine overall, although now we are short on shells. We have to save high-explosive ones. We need more shells.
And the commander is like a link that brings it all together. If the commander is good, if he finds an approach to everyone, then the crew will be intact and will work well.
This Leopard crew was formed during training in Germany.
It was very hard work. The 3-year course was shortened to 5 weeks. We studied from morning to night all day long. There was half a day off on Sunday, but overall everything shifted from night training to daytime training. But we coped.
Although, according to Zahar, NATO training somewhat differs from real battles in modern warfare.
You see, for them it was like this. Before the assault, aviation clears all enemy positions. Then artillery works. When a tank comes out, everything is already cleared. Tanks only do some minimal work. In our case, the tank does almost the main job. When we enter combat, there are still many targets that shoot at us, so it's a bit different from NATO.
This crew has already fought on the hottest fronts in the southern direction and near Avdiivka.
If there is enemy's equipment somewhere or we need to support the infantry, we go to a position, work, move away, and wait again. Sometimes we can drive a bit further away where the shelling is not so intense. There we can even get out of the tank. But sometimes we had to stay inside constantly for 12 to 14 hours.
However, Zahar considers shelling by far not the worst enemy of tanks in this war.
Mines, very damn insidious. Mines and ATGMs. FPVs are probably scarier for the Soviet tanks because they easily explode. It's not the same with Leopards. And if there is suddenly a tank against the tank standoff, I think the Leopard will win. In general, it's very interesting that everyone on the battlefield is afraid of tanks. But tankers are also scared. Everyone is so afraid of us that they want to destroy us badly. Every tanker who goes to the battlefield already deserves respect because he overcame himself. He goes to war. Every tanker understands that this mission may be his last.
Zahar, along with the crew and other Ukrainian tankers, continued to march into battle.